Make welcome IIANC Chairman David Purinai.
Thank you. Welcome to our 2000 InsurExpo. We have a little bit of everything here at the Expo, from workers' comp to customer service, rate modernization, and healthcare reform. It's a guarantee that you will learn something during your time that will benefit you and your agency. In addition to many learning opportunities, we're excited to also have one of the largest group of exhibitors we've ever had. Over 80 companies are in the networking hall. Please make time in the next 2 days to visit with them and talk about their new products and markets that can help you in your business. We also want to thank our partners, because without them we couldn't have these conferences. I want to thank our silver partner, Central Insurance and Imperial PFS, for sponsoring registration. Thank you, gold partners, auto owners, Bankers Insurance Group, Millennium Insurance Group, and Safeco for sponsoring the opening ceremony. We also thank presidential partner UPC Insurance for getting us off to such a great start with the barbecue lunch in the networking hall. We have a very special guest with us here today, our Commissioner of Insurance, the Honorable Wayne Goodwin. We are fortunate to have a great working relationship with the Commissioner and staff at DOI, and are glad to have him here with us. And Commissioner Goodwin, if you would, we'd like for you to come up and say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you, David and Kelly and members of the Big I and friends one and all. Good afternoon. I know it's after lunch. It's a dangerous place for a speaker to be because I know how lunch can affect folks, but I hope I keep your attention for a little bit. Let's try that again. Good afternoon. All right, that's better. Thank you again for having me. I'll tell you, I am very impressed with this crowd we have here today, impressed with the Insurance Expo. I'm always impressed with the work of our independent agents, but not only that, this is a good-looking crowd. I mean, good-looking in every respect. I appreciate that. It's terrific. And before I get into my formal remarks, I do want to recognize some key allies of mine, some colleagues of mine, co-workers of mine, who many of you have gotten a chance to know over the years. I have here with me today Bob Mack, my Deputy Commissioner for Property and Casualty. I think most everybody knows Bob. He was in the insurance industry for 40 years, Bob Mack. We have Kelly Smith, my Special Assistant. Where is Kelly? There's Kelly. Thank you for all your work. And I believe Brian Heckle is here too. Brian, where are you? Brian Heckle, thank you so much for your service too. And I don't think I missed anybody from the department, but we got a great team of folks, and I'm very, very pleased that we have so many dedicated public servants who are working with you, for you, and by your side on anything that may come before us. Well, here we are, approaching yet another important historic turning point where tough decisions will be made and not everyone will go home happy. Yep, you guessed it, it's Oscar season again. And who doesn't love an Academy Award ceremony? Well, like me, you probably have a few favorites in the running. I have high hopes for Steven Spielberg's Lincoln, which I know is a great movie, and I hope you have had a chance to see it. That story that's told in that movie speaks to me because it is an example of a historic turning point surrounded by highly charged and divisive issues. Tough decisions had to be made, but more importantly, people had to find compromises that would benefit the majority, the entire country, while still holding to their individual convictions. Does it sound familiar? I think it does. You know, they say that the more things change, the more they remain the same. And a lot of the issues that we wound up debating over the years come back one way or the other. Well, we're not facing the conditions exactly like they were in 1865, but these are still uncommon times with lots of complicated issues that can easily confuse and divide us. And I'm very excited that we have experts such as yourselves that are helping to guide our lawmakers and educate members of the public about what's at stake and what is the business of insurance and what it is that I do as insurance commissioner and how working together we can make our marketplace and our community stronger and better. And it's for this reason that I'm especially proud and grateful for the excellent relationship that the Department of Insurance and I have with members of the Big I and every one of you. As a matter of fact, as David alluded to a moment ago, I know that our relationship has never, ever been stronger. Thank you for that. Give yourselves a round of applause for all you do. And I'll tell you that as we have that strengthened bond, that covenant between us, working together, I know that we'll continue to have that relationship and that commonality between us, even though we are facing difficult issues and even though we're still trying to emerge from tough economic times. And yes, we disagree on a few things. You know, when you have a complicated subject such as the business of insurance, and you talk about all the things that you do in your individual practices and agencies and in your communities and what I do as the regulator, there are going to be some things where we may have differences of opinion, but we never are disagreeable. We're working towards the same cause. And as I've shared with Kelly and David and many of you over the years, you know, husbands and wives don't agree on everything, right? Business partners don't agree on everything. But yet we still are working towards that common goal. And I'm so pleased that even where there are occasionally some differences of opinion on things, that we are still working together to move us forward and to meet the mission of this association. And I'm very pleased to be part of that discussion. But more importantly, we've taken not only many opportunities, but every opportunity to communicate with one another and find common ground. Whenever any of you have called on me, I'm pretty sure I've responded right then and there. If you've asked me to come meet with you and others in your community, if I couldn't make it, I made sure one of my top staff was there. And if you wanted to meet at the office in Raleigh or at your offices in Cary or wherever it may be around our great state, I want to make sure that you had the eyes, the ears, and the presence of the Department of Insurance and me as our insurance commissioner. And that doesn't happen in every state. I've met with state insurance commissioners around the country, and I'll tell you, I'm shocked that other independent agents don't have the types of relationships that we have here in North Carolina. And I hope you'll encourage your colleagues in other states to cajole and nudge and encourage those state insurance commissioners to get on board and work with your colleagues, because we can make great things happen. Now, most of you know me pretty well by now. We've had the chance to work with each other. I was assistant general counsel at the department, then I was assistant commissioner, and now I've been reelected as our state insurance commissioner. And thank you, by the way. I'm just glad to be on this side of the election, but very happy to be here with you, working together on things of common interest. But you've got to know me pretty well over many years, including my time in the legislature. And you should know that through all those years now, between 16 to 18 years of public service working on insurance matters overall, that you should know that my mind is open to new solutions. Some of the problems we have in society is that folks aren't open to new ideas. Doing things the same isn't always the answer to problems. But it's also important not to throw away things that work too. But I'm always open to new ideas of how we can do things better. And I'm always interested in learning about the challenges that you face every day. And I want you to call me. I want you to email me. Tell me when I can come meet with you so I can hear what you face and we can solve problems together. One of the things I've done is to open a dialogue between the Department of Insurance and agents on these two agents advisory committees I've established. Now, I had some folks when I first proposed this during my first term to say, what's that about? I mean, are you trying to supplant other organizations? I said, no. This is an additional opportunity of enhanced communications. And I believe that it provides even greater opportunities for you and this organization to impact what I do and for me to hear what's working in your communities and in this organization so we can make more positive things happen. And I'm very happy to tell you that the current makeup, the current composition of our Life and Health Agents Advisory Committee and our Property and Casualty Agents Advisory Committee, at least 1/3 is comprised of independent agents, and last year it was 1/2, so we're between 1/3 to 1/2 every year of the decisions that we discuss and the topics we discuss are governed and shaped by you. And I'm very pleased, I'll tell you, I'm very pleased to have so many of you who have served. And Neil, thank you for your service. Neil is now our president for the Property and Casualty Agents Advisory Committee. Thank you, Neil, for your service. Let's show our appreciation for Neil Kaplan. Yeah. And during these meetings, folks who aren't there probably think, well, that's just a meeting where they, just meet and that's about it. There's no substance. Well, I can tell you, we've had some significant conversations, very substantive conversations about what's working and what's not working, and proposing ideas of what we can do better and differently. And those frank conversations during those meetings have touched on some subjects that some folks might not want to talk about, but we have to, and we have to address them. But as we hear one another and respect one another, we all are working towards coming up with solutions that will move the industry forward. One of the most challenging, and by the way, those are public meetings, by the way. We meet in Raleigh, but we also move around the state, and we'll be happy to provide the meeting dates, and I hope you'll come out and join us. It's not just for the members of those committees, it's for the public. And I want you to be there whenever you can. One of those challenging issues that we face as we look at the business of insurance and our marketplace here is, you guessed it, it's homeowners insurance. You may recall, whenever I was first elected and blessed to be asked to serve as insurance commissioner, that I stated that the crisis, the ticking time bomb, was homeowners insurance. And that was back in 2008, and particularly coastal insurance. Well, through your efforts and working together, we were able to stop the ticking of that time bomb. But the goal was to stop the ticking, but to make sure that we came back and tried to address it further. And that's what we're trying to do now in many respects. And consumers, as you know, they want to know that they're getting a fair insurance rate. They want to know how that process works. And the industry wants to know that it has the opportunity to make a fair and a reasonable profit. North Carolina is not alone. You know that our coastal states, particularly our southeastern states, have been facing coastal insurance issues for many years, and that we are doing much better than most, but we still got more work ahead of us. And as you know, there is a homeowners rate filing on the table right now, and as a hearing officer for a public hearing set for June, I can't comment much more on the subject, but if you want to learn more about what has been said, we have those comments that are in our public files, but I just rest assured that we are all working together to try to get to a solution. And there are multiple ways to get to a solution, but having a filing made is one way to help get the ball rolling. And I commend folks for making the filing, because that's a necessary component, along with having legislators and others involved to get us forward on this. But I promise you, this is not an issue that I take lightly. Not an issue I take lightly. And I'll carefully consider all the information to try to do what's best for all parties involved. And I assure you that whatever happens will be in the best interest of both the marketplace and the consumers within the law. And I certainly look forward to being able to talk in more detail with you about that in the coming months. Now, we're also keeping an eye on a number of other issues we expect to be addressed by the state legislature this session. Many of you may be aware of those already by your communications with your lawmakers and by correspondence from the association. And no doubt you've heard that one of the first bills introduced this session involved federal health care reform. Whether it's known as Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act or PPACA or just that law, it's certainly been a topic of discussion among folks who are agents and brokers and insurance companies and the public at large. And I will tell you this, is that I am disappointed that North Carolina is doing something more than what it may have anticipated, that it is apparently, at this point, ceding all control of the health insurance exchange to the federal government. And my hope is that the lawmakers, they've said they're going to work on this to fine-tune it. But as of right now, not only is there going to be a federal exchange, but the law is crafted such that it actually cedes more authority from the state and from your insurance department to the federal government. And whether that was intended or not, we got to fix that, because North Carolinians should decide what's best for North Carolinians. We don't need the federal government telling you how to do your job. We don't need the federal government telling me how to do my job. We know North Carolina's marketplace and its people and its needs and concerns better than anybody. We don't need somebody who's unaccountable in Washington, or even somebody who's on a call center around the world who doesn't know where Hamlet, North Carolina is, which is where I'm from, answering insurance questions and giving counsel on insurance practices and purchases. And I know you agree with me on that. North Carolina should govern its own destiny. State regulation, state-based insurance regulation, best protects our consumers and our insurance marketplace. I do have serious concerns that I've shared with your leadership and you with me and with other lawmakers about this, and that we are concerned that we will not have the resources to handle the increased volume of work and consumer complaints that we are sure to receive when that full law goes into effect. There are many folks who think, okay, well, they thought the answer to fighting the federal government was to give the federal government authority over our insurance market. Well, that's not the way to solve it, in my opinion. But by having the feds involved doesn't mean that our work is going to go down. In fact, the complaints and the workload is going to increase on my shoulders and the shoulders of my colleagues at the Department of Insurance. And it's going to increase with you too. And that's why we need to make sure there's appropriate resources at the department. And I ask for your help with this, that you need to make sure as you do even more to educate our lawmakers and the public about what it is we do, what it is that you do, and why it's so important that North Carolina determine its own fate and make sure that state-based insurance regulation is the way to go. And I'm working with our state leaders to address these concerns. They've shared with me that they're going to work with us in the coming weeks and months to address this. And there are some folks who've said, "Oh, Wayne, you're saying the sky is falling. Is this Chicken Little?" I said, "No, this is serious business." To show you that this is true. There was a federal holiday on this past Monday. On Monday, it was President's Day, and because it was going to be a federal holiday, there were apparently folks working with that federal insurance office in Washington on Friday night and Saturday to send me and my team emails over the weekend saying that we know now that your authority is in question and the Department of Insurance is having its authority ceded to the federal government. Here's what we're going to take. Tell us what's left, and we'll see if we should take that authority too. So this is not just bluster. And they may not meet those deadlines in Washington, but what I care about is us here in North Carolina. To me, it's not a party. It's not political party. It's not philosophy. It's not ideology. It's the right thing to do is to make sure that North Carolina does not give up its sovereign right to decide what's best for us. And that includes our insurance marketplace, because the folks in Washington, there's people, whether they mean to or not, they are basically backdooring, if not front-dooring, into federalization of insurance regulation. And that's wrong. We got to fight that. And I know the Big I, we're working together to fight against that, to make sure our agents and brokers' concerns are addressed. But we got to continue to work together, and more than ever before. As if that wasn't the only topic that could take our time. We also are having discussions. I know you're having a discussion here at this InsurExpo about automobile insurance. It's another topic of discussion, and of course the question is, what should we do? Is this the time to do it? How should we make changes to the system? Should there be a complete dismantling, or should there be targeted reforms on how auto insurance rate making is done? That's of course ultimately up to the lawmakers, but as I shared with the House Insurance Committee yesterday, I just asked them to ask questions. I encourage them to ask questions of you and of the Department of Insurance, because a lot of decisions that are made sometimes, and as a former lawmaker I can tell you, a lot of decisions are often made before consulting experts like yourselves, and I want to make sure they hear it. And there are reasonable minds disagreeing on what to do on this, but by some measures we have a healthy marketplace, but I also know that no system is perfect. And we just want to make sure that whatever changes are made, that they actually address the concerns. And I'm working with the Rate Bureau, with the lawmakers, with the companies, with consumers, with you, to do the very best that we can. And you've heard me discuss this more specifically before, but I just want to make sure that the experts are given counsel as much as possible, and then so the lawmakers will make the very best decision, whatever that may be. Other topics that the legislature may tackle this year include the illegal misclassification of employees by businesses to avoid complying with workers' comp laws. And now Stuart Powell's been with Stuart here. Let's show our appreciation for Stuart for all your work and leadership on this. Thank you. Stuart has been on the forefront on your behalf, educating lawmakers and the public and also the media who've been covering this issue for quite a while over the last year or so. And I see we have the News Observer here, and you're doing tremendous work, Mandy, by the way. That is a topic that is well overdue for correction, and working with the independent insurance agents, working with the department and lawmakers, corrections are going to be made, I guarantee. And of course, we had the auditor came out with a decision with a result of an audit today, I'm sure you've heard about. And all these things are so important because we do not need to have the law-abiding business owners being taken advantage of by those who are scofflaws, who are breaking the law. 99% of the businesses in the state, I'm sure, follow the law, and they report who their employees truly are, and they pay the taxes and they do the reports that they're supposed to do. But there are folks who are taking advantage of and making an unlevel playing field, and that's wrong for our workers, and it's wrong for our state as we look at revenue impact from this, and it's just wrong altogether. And I'm very pleased that through the News and Observer and through Stuart Powell and independent agents and folks in my office and other agencies that we're going to see action on this session. Other topics that the legislature will tackle this year include captive insurers. Now, I know this is a very complex issue, but I guarantee you this is something I've been working on for a bit. This is both a revenue generator for the state, it's also good for business, and I believe it's also good for North Carolina as a whole to give businesses more options on captive insurance. And of course, long-term care insurance. There has been coverage both in the media and through, I've also gotten many calls and letters over the last few years about long-term care insurance. And it's been 10 years since the legislature, and this is whenever I was a member, made changes in the law to have a rate stabilization provision in place. It's back in 2003. And we've had so many folks who've been receiving letters from carriers saying that the carriers are going to have to raise rates 90% or 45% or 25%, or these folks lose their long-term care insurance coverage. We need more protections there, and we need more authorization so I can do my job even better to help not only keep this as an option for folks who wish to purchase that line of coverage, but to make sure that people know what they're getting when they buy it and they get what they pay for and not be surprised years and decades after they started purchasing that product. So long-term care insurance is on there too. As these issues come to the forefront, ladies and gentlemen, I trust that we will continue to work together to find the very best solutions that will benefit independent agents, all folks in the marketplace, including our consumers, and consumers are you and me, our families and our businesses, and the insurance industry as a whole. And just so you know, I may not be able to be here for the entire conference, but Kelly and Bob and Brian, they will be here to join you and to hear the various comments and thoughts throughout the conference in this expo. But just as Irish statesman Edmund Burke said, and he was praised by both, and this goes back a ways, he was praised by 19th century liberals and conservatives, and I guess they had moderates then too. He once said that, quote, all government, indeed every human benefit and enjoyment, every virtue and every prudent act is founded on compromise and barter, unquote. You can't make progress if you're not willing to compromise. Now, that's not giving up your convictions, but trying to find common ground to move forward if we're going to make any progress. And I could not agree more with what that statesman Edmund Burke said then. It's truer now than ever before. Folks need to be able and willing and understand the value of compromise to solve problems and not live in silos out there. And that's why, among other reasons, we have this Insurance Expo. You're going to be exposed to many things and services and products and others that are in the marketplace. And you can see what many people are doing and networking and making stronger connections with folks. And that's why I'm here, because I value the connection that I have with you, and I trust that you're going to give me the best counsel that you can so I can do the very best job that I can as our insurance commissioner. So thank you so much for having me here today. Thank you, and God bless you all, and thank you for having this expo and doing all that you do for North Carolina. God bless.